all of their friends have it, and now they're being left behind. It was literally saying things that I would say. I just asked it some questions about specific pieces of technology. I'm excited to open that because when I opened the AX, it was like, oh.
Just do something. Doing nothing is no longer an option.
All right, well, welcome to the SafetyNet podcast by ArkCybr. My name is Josh Lewis, and I'm the host and producer. And with me is this guy, Sean Artizone, who is the genius hacker, brains and heart of the podcast. He's also the founder and CEO of ArkCybr. And today we're going to talk about this question that I'm sure a lot of you are asking yourselves. One, should you let your kid have a smart device, or when should you let your kid have a smart device?
This is, we've kind of picked up, a theme here, and, a lot of people are like, when's the hacking and all that stuff going to start? But I think, this stuff we really have to talk about. We really have to get through these things because this is the whole premise behind ArkCybr. This is the whole point of the company. When Megan said to me, can we help families before it becomes a problem? This is why ArkCybr exists, is to help remove the harmful content from people's lives and give and use my skills and other hackers that are with me to help make this, help reduce this problem. And so the complexity behind when do I give my child or family member technology, that's a huge question. It's like, how old are you gonna let them drive? At what point are you gonna let okay, it's time to go to driver's ed, okay, it's time to go get your learner's permit? My guess is a lot of families, mom and dad started slow with that, and they went at an appropriate age. They put them in the car. They let them start the car. They let them I did this with my own son, my 19-year-old. Actually, he'll be 20 here in a little bit. But I had him just sit in the car, start it, put it in reverse, back up 10 feet, put it in drive, go forward 10 feet. And that was it. That was lesson number one. And we did that a few times before he had a permit, before he did anything. We didn't even leave a parking lot. We just were there doing that. And I wanted him to feel what it felt like to operate this piece of machinery, this massive piece of technology, and understand you have to be responsible with this thing from the moment you turn it on until the moment you park it and exit this vehicle.
Yeah.
And so, there's just not enough of that with families and children and technology. A lot of families just go out and say, well, you know what? I want my kid to be able to enjoy these pieces of technology because all of their friends have it, and now they're being left behind. And the ability to use technology isn't going to be, removed, at least in the foreseeable future. And people that don't know how to use technology are going to be kind of left behind. And so the option to not use it is really not an option. It's it's delaying the inevitable. And so how long do you delay the inevitable use of technology? Well, depending on and so just for fun, I took our notes on the show. Josh, who's my host, who I apparently don't know his name. Josh sent me the list of things that he's going to ask, and just for fun, I was messing around with ChatGPT, and I took our show and I put it into the chat and asked it to be the host and I'm the co-host and respond to some questions and yada yada yada. And ChatGPT came back with some incredible things, and I was like, this is unbelievable because this sounds like me, and I've never done this before. I've never told it about the podcast. I've never said a word to it, but the voice that it came back in sounded like Josh and it sounded like me. And it was literally saying things that I would say. Now, it's not surprising because ChatGPT is going to parse and pull all of its information from industry best practices, experts that have just helped fill this model and made this model, as smart as it is, and it's continuing to learn machine learning and all the AI portions of it. So it's not surprising that it has come back with very similar answers as to what I would suggest. And so the ChatGPT response says, let's see. I'll read the quote from ChatGPT. It's pretending to be me responding to Josh. It's a complex issue, Josh. Cybersecurity concerns suggest waiting until a child is mature enough to understand the implications of harmful content, which includes things like pornography, malware, scammers, and malicious hackers. Generally, smartphones might be appropriate at age 12 to 14, while tablets like Fire tablets could be introduced around ages 8 to 10 for educational use, albeit with stringent controls. Now, I don't really talk like that, but I
Sure.
did tell it that it's a cybersecurity expert and to have a little bit more cyber mindset. And so it talked more nerdy than I talk, but at least I don't think I talk that nerdy. My wife may
No.
my wife may disagree. However, it's right in line with what I think.
Mm,
Smartphones and things like that. 12 to 14, the kids are going to be off. They're going to have a little more independence, especially
mm,
if you're not homeschooling. If you're using public school or private school, you're sending your child away. There's a communication necessity nowadays.
totally.
There's a ability to just know where your kid is,
Right.
and so this is roughly the age for families where the children get a little more independent. They're wanting to hang out with the friends and be gone longer and do things and go on events. And so 12 to 14, they if they're just now getting introduced to technology, it may be a little late in the game. So when it talks about tablets and things like that, Fire tablets and all that for 8 to 10, I know families that have used the tablets and put them kind of in kiosk mode, or there, maybe if you're not familiar with what kiosk mode is, we'll do a video on that and show you how to actually put your tablet, lock it down so that they can only play those apps in that mode. So anyway,
Mhm.
there's those pieces. So the children, my ballpark range would have been between 8 to 13, and it said
Mm,
between 8 and 10 for tablets and 12 to 14. So that's
okay.
about the age I would introduce. As a matter of fact, my youngest, I believe he got his phone when he was 8 or 9 years old. So,
Okay.
and it was a
Okay.
restricted, limited phone that didn't have cellular. But then when he turned double digits, is when we gave him the cell piece of it, and
Okay.
started to let him do that. So, great
Got it.
question. And
Now,
ChatGPT agrees.
that's true. That's crazy. So, okay, I'm gonna. There's some specific questions I have that aren't even in here that
Okay.
based off of what you just said. So, these are like I just don't understand. So, like a Fire tablet, why would a Fire tablet be okay versus like maybe an iPad or
Mhm.
a Chrome something like why was like Fire tablet like, hey, this is actually probably a good idea? Why was that kind of singled out?
Yeah. So the Fire tablets initially started off as just like reading devices, right? They were the Kindle Fire,
Right.
and they were strictly just an e-reader.
Yep.
Then, as Amazon adopted the Android platform, their portfolio expanded. They started adding apps and doing the Amazon App Store that allowed more things. The tablets, those tablets themselves, which is what we actually started with for the boys when they were really young, they had significant parental control capabilities, and they were able to just be used as a completely offline device. And so the tablets themselves were almost designed for child use. And whoever thought of them put those kind of safety protocols in place early on. So that's where the Fire tablets and things like that, had a better
Got
an,
it.
an iPad, which right out of the gate, it is designed for full internet connectivity,
Yep.
full, just it's a portable computer really in a
Yeah.
tablet form, and it
Yep.
has all of the things that you would expect to find in a Mac OS or an iOS style environment. So
Okay. That's helpful.
yeah.
All right.
Now,
So,
thing, uh,
yeah.
the iPads and all Apple devices really have come a long way. They've evolved into a little bit more safety conscious, and screen time applies across pretty much every device because Apple has recognized the addictive nature. And I just shared a post on our LinkedIn that Dorota, Wonder Woman, and I don't know how to say her last name, but she's from Poland, basically talked about the dopamine effects of screen time. And so everybody is recognizing the intentional uh, addict building nature of these technologies, and people are, aware, the manufacturers especially are aware, and if they're not careful, can open themselves up to litigation for specifically creating an addictive an addiction response. Their goal is to keep you staring at that device, and that, to me, is harmful intent. They want you staring at their device, using their device constantly without really any breaks. The reward system that they've created to cause you to go back to even look at those things. So anyway, kind of rabbit trail there, but people have Apple has made safer. So early on, it was just Fire tablets, but now most of the devices can be locked down to allow and hand it to the children. So
Yeah. Okay. That's helpful. So you're talking about there I think you said like did you say phone was like 12 to 13
yeah,
and like maybe introducing like something like a Fire tablet or something along a restricted access thing maybe as early as 8 years old or something like that. And part of what
hmm
if I heard you right and correct me where I'm wrong, if I heard you right, then part of the reason for introducing technology even at that age is really this is literally the world we live in, and we
yeah,
really it is a way of helping uh, these kids adopt these things and know how to use them as they get older. So it's like it's kind of like you don't want to while you want to protect them, you also don't want to stunt them
yeah,
in their learning, especially since technology is just more and more prevalent. Was I hearing that all correctly?
yeah, 100%. So
Okay.
the devices that you could use for the 8 to 10, younger range would be non-SIM capable devices. So they don't have a
Okay.
cellular plan. They don't have an LTE 5G plan. They strictly rely on Wi-Fi, your in-home Wi-Fi, your Panera Wi-Fi, things like that. The older range, the 12 to 14 introduction of SIM enabled devices that have a tied cell phone plan to it, those devices can be can be introduced later on, because that's where the disconnect. The kids aren't home much more if they're not homeschooled. If they are homeschooled, yeah, and you're 100% right that not introducing them to technology at an appropriate age will in fact slow them down, because if they are schooled outside of the home, they're going to get handed technology at school.
Right.
If they are leaving home to go off to college and they've never touched a piece of technology, that's a unicorn. You'll
Right.
be hard pressed to find a person in in this life,
Yeah.
at least in America, that
Right.
hasn't handled some form of technology in their early on years. And
Right.
so, yeah, it goes back to that bike analogy. Having them,
Yep.
you're not getting the keys to a Harley, you're getting the
Yep.
keys to a big wheel. So,
Right. Yeah. That's helpful. So okay, so those are some of the ages you would consider introducing kids to different kinds of technology. W- let's talk about some of the actual pieces of technology. We've
mhm,
mentioned Fire tablet, we've mentioned iPad, different things, but you know, are there like big picture risks? And we could probably do more content on like very specific things, but like, what are the big picture risks with having a smartwatch at whatever age? What about a tablet, a
mhm.
Chromebook, phone, that kind of thing? Like breaking down those segments of technology. What are some of the like red flags in those areas?
Yeah. So when I had added that question into the Chat GPT flow, basically, here's its response. Of course, smartwatches can have security loopholes. Tablets can be susceptible to malware. Chromebooks, while generally more secure due to their sandbox environment, can still be exploited. Smartphones are the riskiest of all. Word, that's a weird word. It's weird. Anyway, prone to phishing, malware, and full exposure to all forms of harmful content. And I have to agree with ChatGPT, Sean, because every piece of technology that comes out there's an attack vector. As you create that attack surface, right, which is what we call that in the cyber world, is my attack surface can consist of smart home connected devices and personal internet connected devices, mobiles, tablets, personal computers, desktop computers, recording and camera equipment that is smart technology enabled, alarm systems, security cameras, baby monitors, all of that attack surface. The more broad the attack surface, the greater opportunity for compromise. And then if you're somewhat technical and you like tinkering, you may introduce some IoT technologies, some Raspberry Pis, some of the Arduino and gaming consoles and all that stuff. So the larger the person or family's attack surface becomes, the greater risk of some type of compromise. Now, every device has nuance to it, and so what you can do to an Xbox you may not necessarily be able to do to a PlayStation. However, both have browser capabilities, so the browser capabilities of those devices could allow for exposure to harmful content of some kind. It could allow for a number of different attack vectors. If you're a tinkerer and you've opened ports on a firewall because you're like, oh, I want to have my own NAS in my house, but I need to allow the firewall open so that I can get to my NAS anytime I want. If you're not constantly patching and maintaining and doing the things that guys like us would do in industry, industry for enterprise and for organizations, you're opening yourself up to significant security vulnerabilities. And so handing a child a phone, the child doesn't know or care about security updates. All they know is they want to play their game. And so if you're giving those technologies to your child, you have really a duty to maintain the safety of those devices by performing regular software updates. Maybe provide them a password manager so they don't have to reuse trivial passwords, because children, they have incredible memory and learning capabilities, so they may remember a 32 character password. But if they have 300 32 character passwords, it's going to become exactly. And so you whatever devices that you give them, you are increasing their attack surface, and by proxy your own attack surface. So that's a pretty significant consideration to take under. Thinking about that now, you're never going to remove 100% risk from the cyber environment. There's no way. And so you, as a family and an individual and parent, whatever, you have to decide what's the level of risk you're willing to accept. How much risk are you willing to accept, and still allow your child, your family, your individual, whatever, to use that technology, but to do it safely. So
that's really helpful. Yeah. So there's I was just thinking about like how many pieces of technology that are like have like internet access or whatever that are specifically attached to me, and I'm like, I got a computer right here, I have a phone right here, my watch is charging, my iPad, it's just like, wow, just me by myself, I got a number of things. And then it's like, oh, we have two smart TVs, like, and so there's a lot of things to consider with that. Are there like are there special I don't know, are there special considerations for a smartwatch? So I'm thinking about like I've thought like, oh man, I've seen like Gabby Wireless. Have you
oh
seen
yeah,
that?
Gab, yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah, Gab. And they have phones. There's watches and different things. I was like, man, maybe when Honora Ray gets older, like I could have her get a watch. But
Yeah.
what are some things to think about with maybe a smartwatch?
Yeah. So while I was in messing with ChatGPT, I just asked it some questions about specific pieces of technology, and one of the things that it spit out for me was regarding Apple Watches, right? And so because it's an Apple Watch, like a smartwatch, for example,
Yeah.
that type of device, it has screen time built into it. So the screen time capabilities can follow that smartwatch. It also has the ability to restrict whom the user can communicate via text, call, or FaceTime. I'm reading all of these things
Yeah.
from the ChatGPT output. But it goes on, it talks about enabling 2FA, two-factor authentication
Mm.
from the smartwatch, disable in-app purchases from the smartwatch, limit or restrict the ability to listen to or consume explicit content on the smartwatch. That can open up, access to harmful content, and they're doing it right from their watch. So that watch, if it's obviously going to be attached to their wrist, we have a no technology in the bathroom policy here.
Right.
And so somebody's going into the bathroom, the children, they don't take their technology in there with them. They go in there, they do their business, they get out. And, a watch though, that's kind of like a loophole. Nobody's thinking about the smartwatch.
Sure.
And so, yeah. 2FA, keep the watch updated, keep, any technology really that applies to. If you're giving away your device, yeah. So that's if you're going to give them like an Apple Watch. We are a Gab affiliate. I've said it before. We're affiliates pretty much of all of this smart parental control tech platforms that are out there, because not every platform meets the family's use case. But the Gab, and I can't remember if Gab's phrase or if they've coined this phrase, but they call it wise technology instead of smart tech.
Mm.
And that also could be, it could be another organization. I can't think of the name of it right now off the top of my head, but it is wise because it's a connected cellular device using a SIM-enabled technology that allows phone, text, talk, music, some basic things that a phone should have, or a SIM-enabled type device should have, but it doesn't have access to the internet. It doesn't have access to all the other harmful things. And they have those type of wise watches as well that give you a lot of the same functionality, the same use. And I think it's brilliant. It's a brilliant way to introduce your child to technology pieces starting
Mm.
off. And for Nora, like just having that ability to give her something that she can use, she can play with, she can explore, she can do it. But it is the most controlled environment that you want, like putting your child on a bike with a helmet, elbow pads, knee pads. You're in the driver's seat really while they're learning to operate this thing and
Mm.
understanding, some of that. And then you have conversations like, look, see how mom and dad
Right.
text you? If somebody else texts you, you got to let us know because, well, then it just opens the door for those appropriate and what we talk call it this intended use, right?
Yeah.
It gives all of the intentional use that you want, and you can train them on intentional use, and then you can train them or have those conversations about unintended use. So yeah, it's a
That's
great way
great.
to, yeah. So
And I feel like a lot of the principles that you talked about with the smartwatch, whether it's the parental controls
mhm.
or having conversations or, whatever, like those pretty much apply to most technology out
Yeah.
there. It just kind of depends on the level of that. So kind of I'm almost wondering then if you were to rank and thinking about like say there are best practices being used,
hmm
okay, how would you rank the level of risk in terms of being exposed to harmful content
hmm
per device? So would smartwatches be more low risk than tablets versus, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying, like
Yep.
how would you maybe rank those if you were to just your personal opinion?
Yeah. So devices that have the least amount of connectivity possible are probably going to present the lowest amount of risk. So if there is only Wi-Fi capabilities and the child doesn't have the Wi-Fi SSID password, then those are going to be offline disconnected devices until you allow them to become online Wi-Fi connected devices. So those will present the lowest amount of risk. Um, that goes for smartwatches, things like that, like the Gab phone. Bark has a phone that is basically a full Bark operating system. So there's really no way around any of the settings that Bark implements as the parental control platform phone. MM Guardian has a full phone itself. So a lot of companies are getting into this smart safe tech. And matter of fact, our podcast interviewee John Woo last week posted on LinkedIn a bill that is going through that has safe tech implications. And so theirs, I believe, is going to be one of the first, the Griffin platform is going to be one of the first technology pieces enabled that is safe tech certified. And so a lot of these platform makers are going to be pushing to get to that safe tech certification so that parents will know our stuff is designed with families in mind and safe tech initiatives and all of these things. So organizations like Gab and Bark and mGuardian and all the organizations that are making hardware devices with their own custom parental control operating system, those are going to be on the list of presenting the lowest risk, because if they control the OS and they're not just an application on the edge of the device,
Mhm.
there's very little that you can do as a user to manipulate or work around that. So it's a brilliant approach for those. Then I'm going to look at ChatGPT's response here and see what they say. So a basic smartwatch without internet features or a tablet on a restricted local network can be considered low risk. Chromebooks can also be hardened to reduce their cybersecurity risk profile. So it's basically saying the same things that I would recommend. So Chromebooks are actually pretty decent, and that's why I believe schools chose them as their platform. If you go to public or private school, the Chromebooks have a significant hardening capability. The only downside is you're giving Google all of your information on top of
Sure.
having a hardened device, because that's just the nature of using the Google infrastructure. And so, but I would agree, those types of devices, any type of device that has the ability to provide the administrator full control over the operating system, will be a
Mm.
lower risk, not a 100% risk free, but a lower risk on the ranking. And then the higher up the risk rankings you would go would be devices that simply just use applications to lock them down. They use VPN technology to try to force content to flow through those VPNs. Devices basically that the person has full administrator control of, those are the highest risk, because if the person has admin rights to the device they're using, so an Android, Mac, and all that, it's and in the hacker world we call it root. If a person has root over those devices, there's really nothing that can be done to stop that person from installing an app that defeats the parental control and creates more risk, or uninstalling the app that
Mm.
was intended to. And so the risk ranks not just from the application itself, but from the user's power on that piece of technology. So what rights does that
Mm.
person have? So if you can remove that user's ability to just be an admin and just be a user, that then moves that device farther down the list. So an iPhone that you just hand your child, they're a full admin on the device. They can install and uninstall apps. But if you implement screen time and you implement parental controls, then that device, which was at the very top of the list, has now moved 6 or 8 rungs down that risk ladder, because you've done things to prevent or remove some of that risk that's associated with that device. So it's really
Got it.
subjective.
Yeah, even when I'm like looking at the list of devices on for
Mm-hmm.
like iOS or whatever, because we usually use Apple devices
Mm-hmm.
in my home. Uh, yeah, it's like, okay, who's the parent guardian? Who's the child? Like you can like kind of list those things, and it's
Yeah.
important if you can't like strictly lock it down, like you need to make sure that your kid is not an admin. Like that is a huge, just basic and easy thing to do.
Yeah.
It's never good to just he maybe it's fun, right, to like you give them the phone and they get to like unpackage it, and it's like, with Apple especially, like their unboxing experience is just really
It
nice,
is.
right?
Yeah.
And maybe you do that, but don't let them run away with the phone. Like, let me hope. Now I'm going to set this part up for you before
Yeah.
you're actually able to have it. So you just there's those things to consider. Don't
Yeah.
just straight out. You get it straight out of the box. Straight out of the box. In all of my conversations with you, straight out of the box is never, ever, ever
Mm,
good. It is never, ever helpful, and you
yeah.
need to make sure there are precautions that are taken to protect. So
Yeah.
that,
It's
that's
like when
helpful.
you see those home improvement shows and the host is walking up to the front door, and then all of a sudden the camera pans to the homeowner inside, and they're opening the door and they're acting surprised like, oh, well,
Right,
wait,
right,
how did the camera get inside your house and you're
exactly.
acting surprised? Yeah, so maybe have the unboxing shot, that's the excitement, but then yeah, the behind the scenes stuff is, yeah, and the hats off to Apple and to even Samsung. Their unboxing experiences, they are things that people just look forward to, like the
Yes.
opening of matter of fact, the Griffin tower that they sent us. um,
Yeah.
I'm excited to open that because when I opened the AX, it was like, oh, the unboxing experience of that AX was just amazing, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what the unboxing of the tower looks like. So
That's so fun.
yeah, but they did that intentionally to make the whole user experience just something that people look forward to, from unboxing to the first time you plug it into charge, the first time you hear the ding for
Yes.
the first message you get. Yeah, they're intentional about that design and that experience. So there's a reason behind it.
Right. So don't let that experience make you forget that you need to actually
Yeah,
lock things down first, or give
exactly.
people the right permissions. In my simplified mind, I was thinking, oh, by default, like uh I was thinking in category of device, and
Right.
you're saying kind of, but that's not the full story. It's permissions. It's what they can do with that device.
Exactly.
You could have a more compromised smartwatch than you could a full computer if it's not done right. And
Exactly.
so I think you not just giving an oversimplified smartwatches are better than computers or whatever. That's not inherently the case. So
Exactly.
I think that's really helpful. Um,
That's where ChatGPT missed it. They kind of were like, smartwatch, and then from,
uh,
yeah, I'm like, okay, ChatGPT, but what about, yeah. So
I love
so
that.
I showed you.
Right, right. It's like, tell me how to be a hacker.
Yeah,
All right. So,
that's right.
are there, and this may be an oversimplified thing as well, but is there any tech you'd recommend parents just staying clear from? Like,
Mm,
please stay away from this completely, or is it like, nope, just follow these guidelines?
yeah. So uh, this question presented to ChatGPT, I kind of thought the answer was a little insightful, but it's almost common sense. But basically, ChatGPT's answer is off-brand or cheap IoT devices can pose significant
Hmm.
cybersecurity risks. Also, parents should be wary of apps or services that offer to manage children's online activities but collect an excessive amount of personal data. So the
Mm,
trade-off here, the first trade-off, off-brand or cheap IoT devices, for sure, because technology that is made and sold at such a low price point, what's the intent, right? The person manufacturing these things can't be thinking about, you know, or maybe they can, but they're typically not thinking about volume sales and profit. They're thinking about getting this into as many hands as possible. What's the intent of that then? Do they want
right.
their product to be thought of as the cheapest and the lowest cost, thing? Hyundai back in the day, they were selling cars for $3,000 just to get them out on the road, and
Right.
now you can't buy a Hyundai, that's, I don't think, under 15,000 anymore.
Right.
But before, you could almost walk down there with cash and walk out with a brand new Hyundai. And so the off-brand, unknown, cheap IoT devices, for sure. Now, when Raspberry Pi came out, Raspberry Pi, it was an unknown name brand. It was selling for $30 per computer,
Yeah.
and I think I have one here somewhere.
We gave my brother-in-law one for Christmas one year, because he's a software developer.
Yeah, Yeah, 30 bucks for that thing, and it's a computer, USB ports, network, Wi-Fi. The I think the latest version is 4 or 5 or whatever, and I mean they've come a long way. And I actually have some that I am powering some Docker containers on just for a lab and a training environment. And so, initially the brand may be off, but there's if you're not going to connect it and use it and run your entire financial banking system through it, or your email server, things like that, then the risk is again removed because you're just using it to tinker with. If you're going to hear about this device and, oh, this is going to replace the Raspberry Pi, and theirs are only $15, and now you're going to try to buy that to save $15, and you're going to stand up your email server, and you're going to stand up Passbolt. Passbolt allows for a Docker container environment in your own cloud disconnected environment, and you can set up. So now you're putting your password manager on this cheap IoT device, and what do you know? It has a backdoor to Russia or China or something else like that. So those types of risks for sure. Just scrutinize the technology, read the reviews, look at what other people are saying, because likelihood is if you're now seeing the ads for it or you're seeing the information for it, it's either a targeted ad from the manufacturer or somebody spoke about it around you and the algorithm picked it up and now you're starting to see it. So just look into it and use your own discernment, and then ask questions in our Facebook page, ask questions on the YouTube podcast channel page. Actually, I think we even have a podcast forum where you can submit and ask a question, and we won't use your name. We'll just ask your question live on the air. And so, anyway, other things that it goes on to say in the second part, it says parents should be wary of apps or services that offer to manage children's online activities but collect an excessive amount of personal data. I was looking at the Aura platform, and we've recommended the Aura platform. It was Circle Parental Controls, which got acquired by Aura, and then Aura brings in all of the things, the identity protection and all that. But that's a lot of information. So if I'm giving you my social security number, it asks to put your home address in. It gives you an encrypted vault to store your personal data. Now, their encryption algorithms, it says that this stuff is encrypted with the highest level of technology, and it's one way. So they won't even have access to the data if you lose it, which checks all of the security boxes. That's great because the platform is vetted. The platform is going through. But if there's types of technology that are wanting to know your child's location unnecessarily, like does it really need to know all of this? So those types of things, they should throw up red flags, and then you as the administrator of those pieces should do your due diligence. You should look into why, what, how much, where is it stored, how is it stored, what's the actual purpose for the request of this much of the personal information. So really, a lot of these platforms should allow you, the parent, to have the most information about your members that are using the technology, not the other way around. The platforms shouldn't have the most information about the technology that your child is using. And the software licensing and all that stuff aside, you, the parent, should be enabled and given the most amount of actionable information to make the best decisions for your family in those platforms. So avoid the ones that just collect unnecessary types of data. So I agree with ChatGPT on those 2 points.
Yeah, that's helpful. Okay. So if you were to give like 3 good rules to have in place for all technology, what would you say?
So ChatGPT Sean says it gives 3 rules. Always use strong, unique passwords for every device and service. Rule 2, keep all devices updated with the latest security patches. And rule 3, maintain a separate, secure Wi-Fi network solely for your children's devices. So from a practicality standpoint, right, your child is not going to have an easy time remembering a strong, unique array of passwords. So if you're going to give them the ability to use passwords in their technology, then you need to deploy a password manager. And so to even begin to enforce rule number 1 that ChatGPT Sean suggested, would start with a password manager and becoming familiar yourself with how to use a password manager, and then training your child on how to use it when it's appropriate to use passwords from the password manager, never sharing the passwords and things like that. So it is important, but technology is moving to more passwordless. And I don't know if
Mm,
you've experienced it, but if you're using a Windows environment, they've implemented passkeys, YubiKeys, the FIDO2 technology that either uses NFC, USB, fingerprint, touch
yep.
technologies. A lot of technologies are moving to passwordless. And if you can avoid using a password but use some other form of authentication mechanism, that's what I would recommend. So the biometrics, the face, face and fingerprint on those devices are helpful, especially for a younger person.
Yeah.
Um, so that's one. So rule 2 that ChatGPT Sean said, keep all devices updated with the latest security patches. 100% agree. I've said it 1,000 times. We even had
Yes.
the podcast explanation of what patches are and why they're
Yep.
important to have. So ChatGPT Sean gets a check mark 100% on that. Definitely, you as the parent, and I even just said it earlier in this podcast, you as the parent, if you're giving your family technology, you have a responsibility to make sure those devices stay updated to the latest software and application patch level that is possibly available. And
Yeah.
so, and then rule 3 that Chat GPT Sean said, maintain a separate secure Wi-Fi network solely for your children's devices. There's technologies out there, the Google Nest and
Mm,
the Griffins and the other Wi-Fi type devices solely for your children's devices. Maybe it's a neat idea. You're creating just a VLAN for your kids, and then you can lock that VLAN down. But my opinion is everybody needs protection from harmful
hmm.
content, not just your children. So
Hmm.
giving them a clean, filtered internet, sure, but you yourself are susceptible to clicks.
Yeah.
You yourself are susceptible to clicking malicious links,
Yeah.
entering a typo. You yourself need to have that secure Wi-Fi. And so I don't necessarily agree with ChatGPT, Sean, about maintaining a separate. Now, I do say maintain a separate Wi-Fi network for your IoT infrastructure. So if you have smart home connected devices like smart refrigerators, smart washers, smart TVs, thermostats, alarm systems, security cameras, all of that technology, 100% for sure should be on a separate IoT network. That your mobile devices, your personal computers, your laptops, your tablets, all of those things should not be on the same network, because the IoT infrastructure is low hanging fruit. Maybe not necessarily as maintained patch wise. There's not a lot of cybersecurity experts looking into the IoT ecosystem. There are, but there's not as many as there are looking into the desktop and mobile infrastructure. So the patches that come out for those are not as current or frequent and as robust. So I do think that maintaining a separate secure Wi-Fi for IoT devices is significant, but you yourself and your family should be on a secure internet, a secure Wi-Fi. So
Got it. Yeah, I do think that's helpful that you pointed out. Why should parents have a separate thing than like the kids? Because like ultimately, like and you, I mean, like you can block things. Like we were talking with John Woo last week
mhm,
about like how you can limit or block like TikTok or something. Like, but you have like profiles and stuff within. So if you have if you're really taking control of your kids' devices,
mhm,
the network that you are on, the Wi-Fi network or whatever, you all should really want to have as pure and
yeah,
filtered experience equally. Like it
yeah,
shouldn't really be different. So I like how you said that. That makes a lot of sense in my mind.
yeah.
So
Thanks.
okay, what are you know The real Sean, not
Yeah,
ChatGPT
that's
Sean, the
right.
real Sean.
I think
That's going to be
you,
the name of this podcast. Real Sean beats ChatGPT
I
Sean.
love it. I love it. Yeah, fantastic.
That's going to be the thumbnail of like.
All right.
So okay, can we talk about parental control platforms? So we've talked about this before, but what if somebody is just listening to this for the first time? What
Yeah.
are 3 parental control platforms you'd recommend and why?
Yeah. So ChatGPT Sean says, I'd recommend Bitdefender Parental Control for its comprehensive tracking and reporting features. Norton Family is also strong, especially for web filtering. And OpenDNS Family Shield offers a free layer of network level security, which is excellent for stopping harmful content at the source. All right, so we'll pick those 3 apart. So Bitdefender Parental Control, it's comprehensive. It does have incredible reporting features. So it is a solid technology. I wonder why ChatGPT Sean picked Bitdefender, because they all have a very similar structure, right? They all have the ability to limit and reduce the amount of time spent looking at the device, using the device. They all have the ability to implement content restrictions at all the varying levels. So across movies, TVs, music, uh, internet content, all of that stuff. So they all have the same there. And again, it depends on the application, your device ecosystem. If you're an Apple family, does Bitdefender actually work well across all of your devices? Does Bitdefender work on your Mac OS? Does it work on your tablet, your AirPad? Does it work on your iPhone? Does it work on your Apple smartwatch? So I have not found yet, and maybe it's coming, I've not yet found one platform that works across the entire spectrum of the ecosystem that most families have. They have a mix of Android devices. They have a mix of Apple devices. They have a mix of Amazon devices. They have a mix of smart TVs. The problem comes in recommending things like Bitdefender is that maybe that's great for devices that you can walk around and hold like a mobile device or a tablet, but it doesn't do anything for the PC. It doesn't do anything for the smart TV. It doesn't do anything for the security of the internet connected devices that may be part of that, your family's use case. So,
Right.
I would need to really understand your family's use case before I would recommend a specific platform. And so I don't agree with ChatGPT Sean in naming one to look at. So ChatGPT Sean also says Norton Family is also strong for web filtering. So Norton Family is technically a VPN, and what that does is it forces all of your traffic through the Norton VPN filters and the content. Downside to VPNs is that another VPN can just bypass your VPN. And so if you've installed a VPN, then all I have to do is install another VPN to bypass your VPN, and they're trivially defeated. Also, if the child has the PIN code, just not even the screen time passcode, just the PIN code to the phone, which typically they do, they'll have, especially higher up the rankings of age and use that they are given, they'll have the PIN to unlock the phone. All they have to do is go into the settings, into the VPN, where the VPNs are managed, and remove the VPN profile, and you've defeated the VPN in seconds. And you don't need the screen time password to do that. You just need the phone's PIN to do that. So, there's some alerting things. Again, the use case is going to determine the solution I would recommend if it's a VPN solution. VPNs are great. And I'm not knocking all VPNs. VPNs are great if your intent is privacy, anonymity, and protection, because that's what VPNs provide. They encrypt all of the traffic to and from your endpoint to the remote destinations. And so your ISPs, anybody that's monitoring your internet traffic, they're not going to see anything but garbled nonsense. So VPNs are great for that, but I don't blanket recommend VPNs for anyone. I need to understand the use case, understand what it is they're trying to accomplish. We talked about it on the last podcast with John Woo, that Griffin Homebound provides a VPN technology. You install the app, you install the Griffin Homebound app, and it VPNs all of your traffic through your home Griffin router. That's great if you have, one child, you, mom, and dad. But now, if you have, a large family, 12, siblings and this and that, everybody's now VPNing off net through your home internet, and you're sitting at home and you're like, why is my YouTube video not loading? It's because everybody out in the world is VPNing, tunneling through your, maybe lower bandwidth internet connection. So it just really depends on the use case. It depends. So I wouldn't blanketly recommend VPNs. OpenDNS Family Shield, that is a great recommendation. However, the free layer is where the problem comes in. And so clean browsing is a VPN, or not a VPN, sorry. Well, it is a VPN, but it's a DNS network level security layer that I recommend. OpenDNS Family Shield. Cloudflare, if you, everybody's familiar with 1.1.1.1, well, Cloudflare has 1.1.1.2 and 1.1.1.3. Those are free DNS solutions that provide filtering. So 1.2, I believe, just provides filtering of malicious and blacklisted IPs. 1.3 is their version of the Family Shield type, the Cloudflare version of it. So the only downside to the free versions is there's no customization. So what they say is blocked, period. And you have no way of administering it, modifying it, changing it, customizing it to your family's use case. And so a lot of people that have tried using OpenDNS and Family Shield type solutions have complained that everything is broken. I can't get to here. I can't get to there because there's no way to customize it. And so a lot of these, so ArkCybr's, and this is kind of self-serving, but ArkCybr's managed content filtering solution is a network level layer of security that is completely customizable to you. And I think we only charge $60 a year. I think I said that before, $60 a year for that technology. And we customize it to your family's use case. So it's not just going to break all of your things when you use that DNS solution. That's the problem with those. So I do recommend that you just do something. And if just doing something is the Family Shield free version, try it out, see if it doesn't break your situation. But if it does, and you want something that's customizable, come check us out on the website, and we'll get you set up with the managed content filtering solution. So shameless plug for my services, but and again, those types of services that have some kind of back end, I have to pay for those. So that stuff is where we put a charge, because I can't do it for free. It'd be costing me money to do it. But giving you all this advice and giving you all the help and talking you through some of these things, that is always going to be 100% free, no charge for that. We only have, the pay it forward piece, but these pieces of technology I pay for. I'm just getting the cost back for those technologies. So
I mean, that's huge, right? Because you're always tinkering with that, and it's something that is forefront for you. ChatGPT, Sean, wasn't 100% on point with this one, because it's I mean, you love, we've talked about Griffin, we've talked about the Aura stuff, there. And we have more links of our affiliate links in the description. But kind of what Sean just said is not one thing always works for every situation. So I think the ultimate thing is the if you want Sean's recommendation for your family, you should go to ArkCybr.com, hit free consultation, and just start getting in contact with him and let him hear what your situation is, so that he can give you for free and help you set up for free the best solution possible for you. And you'll, if it's Griffin, you'll have to buy the Griffin, but he'll help you make sure it's set up correctly,
That's right.
those kinds of things. So
exactly.
Yeah. So Sean, this was super helpful. I think some of the things I walked away from this was it is important to make sure that you are introducing technology to your kids in a safe way. So whether it is at a younger age, maybe 8, 9, 10, whatever it is, giving them something that is super locked down, something that is just gives them the experience of using technology, so they're not stunted in the future. As they get older, you can give them different pieces of technology, but make sure that they're not admins, right? Make sure they don't have that access, that they have limited access. And as you have conversations, as you train them, as they prove their trustworthiness, you're able to give them more and more freedom, kind of like how you've talked about with AJ. And so it's really making sure you do those things and like even what one of the red flags you said before was just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's actually going to be good for your family. It might be good for the budget. It may not be good for the family. And so you always need to be kind of just looking. It's kind of like any document you sign, right? You don't want to just sign anything. You want to see
Yeah.
what are the terms of use? What are they going to be collecting from me? This thing says it's free. Well, what is it costing you?
Right.
You know what I mean? And because my dad would always say nothing's free, there's always a cost.
Yeah.
And
People are like,
so
wait, you
making
just said
sure
ArkCybr is free. Yeah, the only
well,
cost is you got to spend a little time with me. So
exactly.
yeah.
That's the cost for that. But and then the other big piece that I'm taking away from this conversation that was super helpful for me was I was oversimplifying different devices to smartwatches are safe. Full compute all the way to full computers are the most risky. And you're I think this is the thing you're going to keep saying is like, no, it really depends on the level of access. What can the kid access? What can be accessed through the device by others?
Yep.
So you have to make sure, like we said, a smartwatch could be more compromised than a computer depending on how locked down it is. And so it's going to be really important for people to get that free consultation and make sure that their devices are appropriately locked
Yep.
down. So okay, I think that's all we got for today. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Go to ArkCybr.com. Again, these services are free. The consultation services are free. These podcasts are free, but we rely on people paying it forward to keep things going. So click the link in the description. We really appreciate you guys. And until next time, just make sure you do something.
Just do something. Doing nothing is no longer an option.